a former vice president of product supply, in essence, responsible for supply chain and operations for a mid-market manufacturer with 30 years of experience in manufacturing, supply chain management, and technology. Just a couple of highlights here, countless projects, 175 plus successful projects in several different industries, from food and beverage to industrial products and aerospace type of industries within manufacturing. I am constantly providing new ideas and thoughts with my with publications, speeches, etc. So that's a little bit about me. I have a passion for manufacturing, industrial products, and supply chain, and how to bring it all together to be successful. So I'm excited to share this with you. So with that said, this is a basic picture of supply chain management. The reason that I'm showing it is that I want to show the progression of where supply chain management has come from. But when we refer to supply chain management, we're thinking about I always start at the customer side because the customer drives the demand. So if you're looking at the customers, the end customer, whoever that is in your supply chain, it could go through a distributor, before that a manufacturer. And as you can read here, there's different tiers. I'm showing 2 tiers of suppliers. This is a very simplistic supply chain. And in today's world, we have gone global. It is highly complex as compared to that diagram that I just showed, and expanded with many, many, many layers and partners throughout to get from your supplier to your customer. So supply chain has definitely gone global, which during the pandemic has created absolute disruption, and it is not slowing down. In the beginning of the pandemic, as you see on the left, we were seeing empty shelves in the grocery stores, which just is a visualization of what happened in the supply chain. We had unprecedented volatility in demand. We had some clients, it depends on what they were supplying, that had demand went through the roof. Other suppliers and other clients that had demand drop off like a rocket. And many of which leveled out at some level in between the two during the pandemic. But there was disruptions in supply because it depends on how their supply chain was configured, where they received, who their suppliers were, who their customers were, who was next in the chain. That has never been more important than it was during the pandemic, as to who your suppliers and your customers are and were. So buying behaviors have changed and evolved pretty dramatically during this time frame, and we could talk more about that in a few minutes. But it really has changed things. It's continued the level of disruption, and there's no end in sight. We're going to have to do something differently in the future. Risks have been exposed. I mean, what we thought, we did these exercises, and I'm speaking about it from an 80-20 point of view, but, manufacturing clients did exercises. They said, yeah, we're set up. We have a backup source of supply. We have this, we have that, but they weren't really robust about thinking about the real risks when something, certainly like a pandemic would happen. And so a lot more risks have been exposed than they ever thought they had. And the capacity is just, everything is in the wrong place at the wrong time, and definitely at the wrong profit level, and by no means with the right service level either. So from that point of view, currently where we are is that, the business has been booming pretty much for manufacturers for the most part. They can't keep enough stock on the shelves or produce enough to keep customers with what they're asking for. Lead times are extending, prices are surging. It's pretty crazy throughout. In some cases, with every order, prices are increasing, and logistic capacity is severely limited. So pretty much we are in a state of chaos, and we're having to figure out how to prioritize what we're sending. So some of the common themes that I'm seeing currently is many different ones, but we can like summarize it into these three key things. One is supply chain resiliency. You know, we've been talking about this for many years, but it's sort of similar to those audits that we took. We didn't really account for how resilient we'd really need to be. So now it has proven that what we were focused on in the past, being cost, not that cost is not important, we have to keep it in mind, but we sure better be resilient. And if we sacrifice resilience for cost, we are in deep trouble. So customer responsiveness, as I said before, customer preferences and buying behaviors are evolving. So how do we keep up with these changing conditions? Because by all means, if we're producing the wrong items, and our supply chain is, worst yet, producing the wrong materials and supplies, etc., that we need, we're in deep trouble, because our extended lead times are going to be, we probably won't even be able to satisfy customers before their needs change again. And next thing we know, we're going to be having all the wrong inventory in all the wrong places at the wrong time, which would definitely be problematic. We're looking at reconfiguring the supply chain. We're going to talk more about this, reshoring, nearshoring. So we're going to get into this a bit more, but that's definitely one theme that is hot topic, to be sure. Talent is the other one. There isn't a day that goes by, and we work with many clients across many different industries, and there is no day that goes by where we don't have a conversation about the lack of enough resources. We can't find enough people to do X, to produce, to ship, to partner with, to implement a system, to pretty much name anything. And my clients are having challenges finding the talent they need. So it's a huge problem. And the people who are more on top of on these topics on this screen than their competitors are going to be successful, and are going to not only pass by the competition, but they are going to speed by the competition. So there's limited resources. There's an increasing need of skills. If you think about the global supply chain that we were just talking about, it has increased significantly in complexity. So that requires increased skills and need for skills. We also are needing to retain talent. By all means, that's the other thing. No week goes by, it seems like, without hearing about somebody else who has left for another company, or somebody who's retiring, or somebody somewhere in the midst. There is somebody that is not being retained for one reason or another. Some of them are controllable and some of them are uncontrollable, but we have this widespread issue. And of course, developing talent. I mean, that's certainly a need in today's world, because after all, with as many retiring as we're going to retire prior to the pandemic, just with the baby boomer generation getting to the point where we are currently, we had a massive issue, and that has been increased, I don't know, tenfold with what's happened here. So there's definitely a need to develop talent and attract talent. So we'll talk a bit more about partners and collaboration. So the talent topic is key. And then digitization and data. That is also a critical topic. There is no week that goes by that I don't hear about the need for, why is this data on this report not showing what we think it should? It doesn't look right. we don't have what we need to make the decisions fast enough. And that's just the simple things. How do we predict where we're going to be, what we're going to need in the future, and how will we get in front of all of this data and digitization needs? What was going to happen in the area where I happen to live? They did a study. The Brookings Institute did a study, and what they were expecting to happen in terms of the digitization and the implementation of technology in the next 10 years has pretty much happened during the pandemic. So it has accelerated the pace of change massively. And that's not just in this area, it's just an example. So we're going to talk a bit more about that and what we need to do to keep up with all these changing requirements. And if you think about it, the digitization and data relates directly to talent, because if you can help your talent with the right information at the right time and automate things that don't make sense to do manually on a daily basis, you can better position your talent, and you can utilize the data so that you can create some supply chain resiliency as well as utilizing your talent. So all three of these topics go hand in hand. So this is just showing you that a survey has said the same thing as what we're seeing with clients in the industry. So these are some really well-respected surveys, but in essence, Thomas' survey is showing that 83% of manufacturers are likely or very likely to reshore. That is significant, and it has gone up tremendously since last year. So that's telling, and it's going to relate to your supply chain resiliency, and it's also going to relate to ongoing change and disruption. There's several surveys you can see here about talent. 80% of manufacturers say talent ecosystems are critical to competitiveness. That's not surprising. I'm surprised it doesn't say 98%, but probably the more days that go by, that number would continue to increase. And then there's a couple here that you can see about supply chain disruptions and technology. The digital transformation is becoming more and more key as each day goes by. So what do we do about all this? So there's a couple of key topics that I wanted to go through quickly, and then we'll have a discussion here and ask some questions. So the first thing is we need to rethink manufacturing and supply chain. It is no longer all about cost. It's no longer even all about what I used to call the Amazon effect and how we needed to have 24/7 accessibility. We have realized that our risk is changed pretty significantly. Our risk profiles have been exposed. We need to be thinking about strategic inventory. I see clients across the board looking at where should I position inventory effectively through my supply chain, or maybe just capacity. Maybe I should also be producing close to my customers. So many executives are looking at regionalizing their supply chain, reshoring, nearshoring. Basically just means producing closer to the customer. But that changes the whole supply chain. It changes the source of supply, the materials. There is a lot of change that's going to go on, and the people who can keep up with this and get ahead of this are going to be successful. The rest are not. It's going to be similar to the Great Depression many years ago, where the winners were separated from the losers. What also to do? This is a sweet spot of our consulting practice, and it's extremely popular today for those clients that want to get ahead of how do we create predictability in our revenue stream, in sales growth, and how do we ensure that we have the capacity, the resources, the storage, etc., to be able to supply that revenue at levels where they can scale the business in a profitable manner and can build the business with high levels of customer service and customer responsiveness. So the left side shows you what sales, inventory, and operations planning is about. You start with a dollar level sales forecast, which many companies have. The problem is that how in the world do I figure out like what that means and what I'm going to sell and to turn it into a product level forecast? And then turn that level, especially in the industrial sector, like how do we turn this into engineering capacity needed and manufacturing capacity, supplier and long lead time materials, and storage capacity? How do we make all that happen and do it on a monthly cycle? So the right side of the screen is going to show you all the results that you can achieve from sales growth, working capital improvement, and cost reduction. So I could talk about this for quite some time, but we'll move on. So to be attractive to your talent, and a couple of things I'd highlight here is people follow people, people don't follow companies. So who are your leaders? Make sure that you have key leaders in place. I can tell you from even a client point of view that certain clients are more attractive than others, and they are the ones that have people that are good to work with that are leaders. Discover your hidden talent. Every single client worked with over the last 16 years has a hidden gem in their midst that they are underappreciating. And in today's world, you better find them. And by all means, retain them. So got to retain and develop your top talent. Many of these are considered the basics, and most companies don't follow them. So what are you doing to make sure that you're compelling people to work for your company? Like, would you want to work for your company? It's a good question to be thinking about. Do you have a performance management process? Are you holding people accountable? Strangely enough, your top talent does not appreciate you letting your weakest performers get away with it because you don't want to have those conversations. Doesn't work. So make sure you're attracting talent. And attracting the talent means keeping talent as well, and attracting new talent as well, and supplementing the talent. Many people today can't find talent fast enough. They're filling gaps, but they're filling them with consultants, with trusted advisors, with people who can help them bridge the key gaps, and they're looking at just what's critical to the business. They're not looking at everything. So you have to prioritize and think strategically about what's important, which talent is important to you. And digitization of the supply chain and data is also absolutely essential. The first thing is like, you have to upgrade to at least a modern ERP base, which is the system you use to run the business. That's critical because a modern ERP system is going to have many of the capabilities, or they'll at least connect with many of the capabilities you're going to need to be successful in the, well, currently, but also in the future and 10 years down the line, which most people can't even think, a day down the line these days. But at least a year or two down the line, you need to be thinking about this. How am I going to get ahead of my customer requirements? Will my system enable me to be successful, or will it hold me back? That's kind of what you need to be thinking about. Will the system be ahead of me in terms of functionality and what I need, or behind me? I mean, these are the kinds of things that we need to be thinking about. One of the things also is selecting ERP systems, and I work with clients to do that. It's really quite critical, and there are just some key things here that you see on the screen to be thinking about. So just keep those in mind as you're selecting. And data, with an ERP system, you have more data than you could ever need. Even if you don't have one, you probably have more data than you could ever need. The question is, how can you use that data? How can you make sense of it? How can you make sure that you're connecting it properly? Can you use business intelligence, analytics, predictive analytics? Can you visualize it to make decisions? I mean, the key thing here is, can you make good decisions with your data? And can you be looking ahead and make strategic decisions? Remember, like, everything is changing and evolving on a daily basis. Your customers, your customers' customers, your customers' customers' customers are going to change. Your suppliers, and your suppliers are going to change and evolve. So are you set up to be agile, flexible, find a way to be able to do that dynamically with them? And moreover, like, why not be ahead of things and lead, go where the puck is going, not where it is today. So I have an ebook out for emerging above and beyond from the pandemic point of view. Some insights from top people in manufacturing, supply chain, and technology from thought leaders. And of course, I've put it all together into some of the key things I think will be critical. So you can download your free copy there.